Josh, did you ever dream to become a middle manager?
No.
No?
No. That's such a, yeah. Plus, I don't dream, but that's a whole different story. That's a whole different
Oh,
story.
jeez.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to dream any longer because companies are now unbossing, quote unquote, the workplace. So say goodbye to middle management.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because like you would always think like you're the, what is it, from Dunder Mifflin is like
Dunder Mifflin, you become
the
Michael
associate,
Scott,
yeah, associate to the regional manager.
Associate to the regional manager. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
so I mean, those positions are now getting the axe because companies are saying that it's much more effective to have upper management talk directly to people.
That's interesting. That's interesting to think about because I feel like there's a lot of details that go between two middle managers from below, and then that gets filtered to the top. But yeah, that is
like both ways. Like in terms of, I feel like if you're an employee trying to go talk to potentially like a senior manager or someone like that, it's much more intimidating because it's like, you know, versus like this giving to your supervisor or your manager, and then they go converse with them. It's now you, the contributor, talking directly to them. And it's like, okay, you're taking up their time because now there's a lot of people directly going to them.
It's a different dynamic too, I feel like. Yeah, and you know, there is a certain sector that is actually more hit by this middle manager like exodus or like extinction, and we'll cover that after you consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button. We come out with interesting topics like this one all the time. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up with this type of news. So millennials. Oh,
Down and dirty, it's millennials.
Oh
Millennials
my
are effed. They're on the chopping block. They're like, oh, you know, millennials have this weird position where they now are going from, well, yeah, because now they're like, you know, they went from like their individual contributor to maybe like a lead to a supervisor, and then now they're like, you know, like a manager, but like, you know, they're in the middle management. They're somewhere in the middle. They don't have enough experience to be senior management, and they're not exactly like the lower contributors anymore because they moved up the ranks. Because they're like, you know,
I can believe that. It's a natural progression of things. Yeah.
Used to be, but not anymore.
Oh my god.
So now this is happening to 30-somethings like us.
No, my god.
Oh god. But this is happening at the worst time because people in our position are trying to, like, you know, buy houses, having kids, potentially juggling career progression and family life. So to potentially have your job be on the chopping block because you decided to move up is terrible. Because like
it is, yeah.
They're not going to remove the people doing the actual work, you know, like down below, and they're going to go remove the fat from the middle, apparently.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is the case because, like I mentioned, I feel like a lot of things do get filtered. And like you mentioned too, things get filtered both ways because there's individual contributors to leads talking to the middle managers, and the middle managers going through and filtering all that in a concise and clear way to senior executives, whoever's on top, leadership, and then the same way going back down, because there could be senior leadership or leadership in general just talking and saying it's like, hey, we need these things implemented. Yeah. And instead of just going and being direct to the individual contributors, where I think there might be a little bit of a dynamic there. Yeah. Filtering it through the middle managers, and then that gets filtered down even more to different people.
Yeah, and I mean, technology, I think, is the big driver of like the removal of middle management, because now people can be closer without actually being closer.
Yeah, that is true.
So, I mean, they're trying to like cut the fat, and they see that there's a lot of money that is involved with keeping middle management around.
Oh, that is true also, yeah.
Yeah, because like you're getting paid potentially more than the employees, but you're not getting paid as much as the senior executives, but there's senior management there's less of them. Yeah. But there's typically much more. So a surprising figure is that middle management positions accounted for almost 1/3 of layoffs in 2023.
That is crazy. That is crazy to think about.
Yes. So in 2018 it was apparently 20%, or an increase from 20% in 2018. So this is kind of eye-opening. You know, this is becoming an issue because now there's a void in terms of like now either you're a worker employee or you're a senior manager.
There's no in between.
Yeah, and no in between. Like maybe you become a lead and you're tasked with like managing like 5-10 people, and then it's like, okay, well, where do you go from there? It's like, well, that team lead reports directly to some senior manager, and it's like, okay, well, that's a big jump. You know, and now there's like more competition for those positions too.
You know, it doesn't surprise me though, because as a lot of us know or might not know, or the past few years have been really challenging. Companies have tried to cut costs. Inflation's one of the biggest things. The cost of borrowing money is high. So one of the ways that people do cut would be through seeing who's there the longest, or who's there, who's getting paid a somewhat good amount. That's not like technically like leadership up there because they're making the big decisions. So middle managers seem like one of the obvious choices to cut. And then sadly, and it does save money if leadership is just able to talk to individual contributors directly, or just like leads or something like that. Pay them less and still and still have that communication there on like directions, but just not in a more concise way. Yeah,
another like interesting figure that I looked up or we found is that ages 28 to 43 were the hardest hit during the big firing, quote unquote, of 2022. They made up 94% of laid off workers.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big, but I mean,
it's a pretty big percentage. Yeah.
So I'm like, and I mean, it's just really tough. So would you consider yourself, would you go into a middle management position knowing that you're like, I feel like it's like a very like iffy slope where like you want to take that middle management position, but like, I feel like your days might be numbered if you go take that role. You're like, oh, well, it's a great promotion, but you know, you might be on the chopping block.
So I do think that it would be good to take a role like a middle management role if you're able to progress in your career. Because it's not like all the companies are chopping off middle managers. There's still some companies that are there, and like just having a natural career progression would be nice.
More sense,
it would make more sense to a lot of people. So me personally, I would, if it does progress me in my career and I'm able to learn more and do more. But yeah, it is a difficult question, but like what job is safe now at this point?
That is true. It seems like nothing is really safe, but we'd like to hear from our audience in the comments down below. What do you think about this whole unbossing the workplace? Do you think this is going to be a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? From what I read, it seems like it's going to be a potentially net negative in a lot of ways, because at least like it net positive in terms of like saving the company money. The bottom line is going to go, like be better. But in terms of career progression for even like the employees that like are still left, they have less mentorship opportunities because there's less like managers out there looking out for them. Imagine trying to get mentorship from a senior manager. That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
they're just constantly being bombarded by all the people now. So I'd want to hear from our audience in the comments down below.